Hello and welcome back to You and I for the Kenai. I'm here today with Eric and Brett for our 11th episode.
And Kobe.
Oh, and Kobe. Yeah, Kobe's joining us today on the mic. So yeah, we're excited. Brett is a chemical dependency counselor at the Serenity Intake Office. Brett, how's it going, man?
It's going great today.
Going great today? Good, man. We're super excited to hear your story. Just to start out, where are you from? How was growing up? Did you like it?
Yeah. I actually had a great childhood. I was adopted from Indian reservation in Montana to a family in Alaska.
Really?
So
We're from Montana.
We're both from Montana.
Right.
And we both grew up in Hardin, Montana, which is on the Crow Agency Reservation.
So Northern Cheyenne tribe.
Okay,
Real
okay.
close,
yeah.
Right down there.
I mean, yeah, every time we do a podcast, man, it's like something that comes up right away that's, like I said before,
the
that
whole
you're like,
6
oh,
degrees
are you
or less of
serious?
separation.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Small
okay.
world. It really
so
is.
excited to hear about that. That's cool. And so, all right, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine, man. I like this.
So you grew up on the Northern Cheyenne?
No, I was born there. I was
okay.
actually adopted by a family up here.
Oh, okay.
So I lived actually a quarter mile down the road from where we're at right now.
Yeah,
nice.
wow, cool.
So, yeah, I grew up in this area, grew up in a really good home.
That was pretty young?
Yeah, from before I was 1 year old.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So here is home, Kenai.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah, whole life.
Yeah, I had no siblings. I had biological siblings, 9 of them.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, just biologically. They've been adopted out all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the family I was adopted into, which is my actual family that I grew up with, there was 4 of them. But they were I was a late in life child, late in life adopted child.
Yeah.
And they were all in their, well into their 40s when I was born.
So for most
really?
functioning aspects, you were an only child.
Yes.
Yeah,
I grew
okay.
up pretty much alone. We took in family. We were the most stable out of all of our family
Okay.
to take in nephews, nieces, whoever else.
Yeah.
So, because addiction kind of plagued around the majority of my family that I was adopted into.
Really?
So I wasn't directly around it at all.
But there were other family members that would come live with you, while other family members
Yes.
were
Unbeknownst to
in
me,
use.
there's a reason that there were
Sure.
other family
You
members
thought,
living
oh,
with
hey.
me. It was like, oh, cool, we have my niece living with us. Oh, now we have my nephew living with us.
Yeah.
Oh, now we have a family friend living with us.
And meanwhile, your parents were like, oh my gosh, we got a niece living with us. We got a nephew living with us. And you're like, yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah,
Only child loved
totally.
it.
It's crazy. Like,
Other than I didn't get attention. So,
yeah.
that's the whole thing.
Bummer.
That whole
Yeah,
instant gratification part of the brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
That started young. Growing up, I mean, I wasn't subjected to a lot of the things you hear about with a lot of addict stories. There wasn't violence going on around me. There wasn't drugs and alcohol in the home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any of my parents drink any alcohol until I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that's just how I grew up. However, there was this thing that happened early on. This thing with addiction, a lot of addicts relate to being able to they don't feel like they belong at all, and I remember that was one of my first things I noticed about myself. A, I didn't look like my parents. B, kids unbeknownst to themselves are cruel, just by pointing out simple observations. Like my parents were a little older and they're Caucasian, I'm brown. It didn't jive well with me, but and then being too scared to even bring that topic up because my parents did the best with what they could. However, they never explained anything about, they tried to make my life as simple as it could be. However, it oversighted a lot of emotions I was dealing with as a child.
Yeah.
And my mother also has multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
So at a young age, I was thrown into a situation to where I was no longer taking care. I was in charge of taking care of her.
Yeah.
So my dad worked.
That's a lot of responsibility for a kid.
Absolutely. At 4 or 5 years old, realizing that
Wow.
mom's not driving anymore. Mom's doing the best she can, and my mom was a warrior through the whole thing.
Sure.
However, it went from being functional to not functional.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I didn't know how to talk about it. Didn't have people around me all the time to do that stuff. And all I saw was I was different.
Yeah.
That was the main
And
thing.
regardless of how, great your home life was, that thought in your mind ever creep in, like, man, why did I get put up for adoption? Like, was
absolutely.
There ever like
that's like one of my first things was like they told me I was adopted, and the first thing was why?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why am I singled out?
No, yeah.
It comes down to the self-centered
especially
roots of
young.
addiction, and that's one of those things that plagued me for the majority of my life. That inferiority thing. I felt like I always had to work harder than other people, and I really didn't. I didn't have a privileged life, but at the same time, I didn't have a lot of the things I saw other kids had.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, tie this in for us now. Where did you're talking about how these things kind of led into your addiction? When did that kind of come to like a nexus point where you actually did start using because of these things you mentioned?
well, my reaction to substances has been apparent since I was about 3 or 4 years old. When I had an ear infection, I was given a medication that the doctor swore I would be passed out within 5 minutes. And my mother said after hour 12, she finally just closed the door and let me run around in my diaper in my room.
Wow.
And she said there was an odd reaction that you had to this, that even when we called the doctor, they said that's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
He should be down,
Yeah.
but he's up and he's running. And that's, and that, of course, that was out of my control at that age. First actual use, I played a lot of sports growing up. I played sports, a lot of hard, just physical, a lot of contact sports. Ended up breaking both my arms and my leg. Nothing extreme. I mean, just stuff that happens when you play football, baseball, things like that. However, I ended up with a plethora of narcotic pain medication.
Yeah.
Right.
I never took it until I got older, and I can't even remember the exact moment where I know a friend and I came up with some good ideas, and he basically said that he had this at his house, and I realized I had a plethora of that at my house, and realized it didn't do this whole. It's not like I didn't know what it was doing to me. All I know is I didn't feel scared of the world anymore.
Yeah. How old were you?
First use was 12
Okay.
when I first took it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't. That was a one-time thing. I know it made me feel different.
Yeah.
I didn't feel sick.
And
I
as
didn't take high doses.
Yeah, and as a chemical dependency counselor, reflecting as you are, if you were to you talking about that now, I imagine you're like, man, I shouldn't have had access to narcotics at 12. I mean, I'm not trying to call anything out.
I
but
understand that.
That's probably not good.
It wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about family systems that you learn. It's a lot of family systems. It's not that they're sick or that they're bad. Ill-informed is a major term that it happens a lot. That's why the education pushes are being put around all over the community.
And I know you're at Serenity, and I know one thing Serenity is really pushing right now, or Change for the Kenai, or Central Peninsula Hospital, whichever title you want to put this under, is the safe use, storage, and disposal.
The safe.
Yeah, of medications. And we think maybe if there was a little more safe going on, wouldn't have been like, hey, dude, I got some opiates at my house. Oh, you got some opiates at your house? Oh, tight. Let's take opiates together.
Yeah.
Well, that was what it was. I mean, simple curiosity
Yeah.
stuff. And the reality is I probably would have figured it out another way, but having open access to something like that at that age, in those developmental stages, too.
Yeah, you need some barriers.
So was it just left over, or
I
from,
never took it.
Yeah. So was
Yeah.
it just sitting in the cupboard?
They were
basically?
just sat in the cupboard. Each broken bone that I had, each sprain I had, anything, they got them from the doctor. Okay, they're in the cupboard. They're just there.
Really?
Yeah, education about that. That's a very, very, very common practice
Right.
all over. And it's something that gets overlooked. At the same time, it sets people up. Is what it does.
No, totally.
Yeah. And there's lock boxes now that are available for little to no cost for narcotic medication, as well as just having young children in general.
Yeah.
And it's just a good idea to have.
Yeah.
So, not that really would have changed anything, because reality
Sure.
was I didn't feel okay with myself in general.
That's not like
experimentation jumped quickly the first time I picked up a drink. It wasn't that I loved it, but instant blackout.
Sure.
First time I drank with the same friend.
Yeah.
And even the first time the people I was drinking with stated that it was my reaction was different than theirs. They said it got all over you, and we could tell at that point you were in it.
Yeah.
Whatever level you were on, we weren't there, and we were probably never going to get there.
Sure.
The reality is most of those guys
You went from 0 to 100.
0 to 100 and
real quick.
Yeah. and everyone knew it.
Yeah,
I made sure of it.
Yeah.
I made sure of
Yeah.
it, and it went quickly from. I just like not being scared.
Yeah.
Is what it was. I didn't have to act a certain way. I didn't have to feel. I didn't have to pretend I was a certain way. I didn't have to have all these. Not that I had big pressures in my life from the outside, but internally, just had all this stuff going on that didn't. I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't have people who were open about it, and addiction wasn't talked to about it in my family.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Now it is.
Right.
Now it is. It's a healthy thing we talk about now, but that had to be taught to my family system.
Yeah.
So, however, I was still functional.
Yeah.
Still functional. Still did school. Drank on weekends.
This was in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through high school. Excelled in sports in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you playing in high school?
Basketball, football.
Yeah.
And then summers was all baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I played, and tried other sports too, but the big ones were there, and I did very well at them.
Mm-hmm.
Had a very large group of friends, but slowly when they would tell me those like super mean things, like you need to slow down drinking, you're not fun anymore. A lot of people would look at their actions. My reaction to that was, I need new friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did that. I burned a lot of friendships to the ground, and I just walked away with indifference.
Just done.
You're not good with what I'm doing.
Peace.
Walk away.
Yeah.
And then that's one of those things I look back on, and not that it really would have made a big difference. I was a hurricane, and that's where it was going. Mm-hmm. So, however, I was really good at being sneaky.
Sure.
Later on, you find out that's criminal behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
I called it sneaky back then.
Yeah.
I was always able to manipulate situations, And at the same time, I had these responsibilities to my family where I still had to, no matter what state I was
Yeah.
in, I still drove mom to
You're
church.
still, okay.
And it still had to go there.
Yeah.
Had to at least get mom, because mom couldn't drive.
Yeah.
Those were, and trying to balance that stuff, I realized that my world quickly shifted to switching everything around my substance use. Mm-hmm. Is just everything revolved around it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything. School was just a way to get more.
Yeah.
Everything else I had to time around making sure I had X amount of stuff.
So was you mentioned that you had alcohol? Was that like available in your house, or like how did you get access to it? Did you just have friends buy it, or
No,
did that happen?
my friend's dad liquor cabinet.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That was
right.
his dad worked shift work, so
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes
so
sense.
yeah, dad was gone. Just went over there.
Right.
Had no idea how to do it, nor was the topic of alcohol and drugs talked about, period.
Right.
Not that it needs to be by every single household, but the reality was it was one of those topics within the family system that said, no, we don't even acknowledge that. We don't even bring it up. If there's something on the TV we don't like, we just change the channel.
Yeah.
Right.
Lack of communication.
It sounds like there's a lot of avoidance.
A lot of avoidance. And it was, the motives behind it were pure. I mean, they wanted to kind of try to shield me from whatever they could, so I didn't take the path that a lot of my other family members had in their past. Mm-hmm. However, not talking about it left that door wide open
Yeah.
for me to fill the gaps in with,
And as a counselor today, what are some of the thoughts you have on like family systems where addiction is prevalent? Because it sounds like, not to speak for you, but it sounds like maybe avoidance isn't the best option.
No, not at all.
What would you say about
Establishing
that,
a healthy communication system.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you look the other way if your child tells you something, but I know we do this with our kids, where no matter what they do, they can talk to us about it.
Sure.
There's nothing that, and establishing, and the reality is not assume your child feels safe and comfortable with it. Creating the environment for them to be, and developing those communication systems to where no one's hiding anything. Mm-hmm. And age appropriate too.
Right. Yeah.
Age
Yeah.
appropriate.
Okay.
I've been able to talk to my daughter who's 6 years old about, we refer to, we don't talk about the details of my substance use. What we talk about is it from a disease standpoint, because addiction is a disease. Mm-hmm. And explain to her that I was sick and I went to the hospital and a group of special medical people helped me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And she can wrap her little mind around that and
Yeah.
actually see a little piece of it, because she asks constantly, like, why do you work at the hospital? Why did you go to the hospital before? Mm-hmm. And in lieu of having someone else fill those blanks in for her who may not be as educated on the topic itself, and kind of push her little mind in a different direction, put it from a realistic standpoint. It doesn't mean I don't take responsibility for the actions I've done.
Right.
You know, and that's the interesting part, is even looking at that stuff from a family perspective. Now that I have 3 kids, and doing that and being able to talk to her, my wife and I can talk openly to our kids about whatever is going on in our household. So, and there aren't off-limit topics.
And it sounds like that there's a real balance. We did a recovery story with a lady about a week or 2 ago, maybe, that it was so open, and like her parents were using in front of her, and at a young age, like almost encouraging use. So it's like it seems to be that balance where it's like kind of a blatant openness versus like an educated kind of move you along, like as you do get older and mature, when you can handle more of it.
Well, absolutely. When you look at role models, it comes down to what are they doing, because that's what the people who look up to you are going to do. It's not what they're saying. That has to do with anything. It has to do with no matter what you're looking at. If you're looking at recovery, if you're looking at child and parent, you're going to mimic what's around you. Humans do that. We mimic each other, especially people we look up to.
Yeah.
We're going to mimic their behaviors, what they're actually doing, what they're actually saying. We're going to pick up that lingo. And we're going to pick up those actions, and we're going to mimic it to the best of our ability, no matter what our age is or the appropriateness of it.
So what do you think your role models were when you were at that age, like 12? Do you think that played into it at all? Or do you think if you had a better role model that things would have turned out better? Or
it's not that it didn't have a solid role model. However, these things weren't talked about at an early enough age.
Right, yeah.
So when they came up, I filled in the blanks. That's what happened. I mean, I had a very... Looking at that with my own kids, I sat at my son's table with him and listened to the conversations that he's having at a local elementary school. The reality of what kids at a very young age, 2nd and 3rd grade, are hearing and talking about on a regular basis. It's mind-blowing. At the things that they know. And I look back when I was that age, like, I wasn't going through. I had some fear stuff going on, but I did not have these details filled in for me. These kids are identifying drugs at 2nd and 3rd grade.
Wow.
And knowing exactly what their parents went to jail for the last week. I mean, just horror stories about what's going on in our local community right now.
And there's just some things kids just can't handle. I mean, emotionally.
No, that creates trauma. I mean, you're going to have all sorts. You're going to have secondary trauma just from hearing inappropriate things and kids seeing things that their little minds can't handle.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with a bunch of adverse childhood experiences. Which,
And it sounds like that's interesting you say that, because it sounds like your home wasn't necessarily ACE-ridden, wasn't necessarily adverse childhood experience ridden, but there was like some clear communication breakdown, as well as like some pretty heavy burdens that were placed on you pretty early, as well as with that confusion of kind of being adopted, as well as feeling like you didn't belong. So it did, like, with, even though you weren't, like, for lack of a better term, like ACE ridden, you still had a lot of challenges going on from very young. And
absolutely.
So you get into high school, and are you thinking like, when you're drinking, are you thinking like, oh, I don't drink like my friends, they say that, like, you're probably smart enough to see that you don't necessarily drink like your friends, but are you thinking like, that's because I'm an addict and I have a neurological disorder?
Absolutely not.
I
used derogatory language with them, but to say you guys ain't tough enough.
Yeah, sure.
And I went and found people who were doing what I wanted to do, or would be okay with me doing what I did. And it brought me around a lot of people that I probably shouldn't have been hanging around at that age.
At a young age, I imagine the people who are wanting to drink super heavily and who aren't going to give you a hard time about it aren't like 14-year-olds on the speech and debate team.
No, they are not.
What are the kind of people you're hanging out
They're
with?
graduated high school.
18,
they're
19, 20
doing
old,
what they're doing at that age, and
30.
Whoever was okay with me doing it.
Yeah.
And I would latch on to these people, and you add lack of, as much as I can talk, I am terrified of humans a lot of the time. So I'm willing to do whatever you need to do as long as I can fit in. And doing favors for whoever, doing whatever I need to do. I also had a large sum of money at my disposal. And
did you have a job?
Yeah, I worked, and also I had disability
Oh, okay.
based because my mother was disabled.
Oh,
so I got monthly checks that were supposed to go for, like, you know, what a parent would expect them to go to, like college and all that stuff. And of course, it went to nothing like that.
Yeah.
It just fueled whatever I was doing, as
Sure.
well as buying friends. You know, I could have and that's the thing, I could have a million friends around me. At the same time, if you asked me, I'd tell you I had nobody.
Right.
You know, because I never really felt close to people. I was terrified. I didn't know who I was, what I was. So I made up whatever I needed for me to be so I could get what I wanted.
Yeah.
So, and that behavior stuck with me for a long time.
Kind of that chameleon.
Absolutely.
That
I could
stuck
be
around for a long
anything you
time.
wanted me to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
And so you, when did you kind of either involuntarily or voluntarily kind of at least come to maybe the basic idea that, like, man, I might have a problem, you know, or I might not use like my use might actually be because I'm an addict, or maybe I am not just like super tough.
probably 2011.
Okay.
That's well, I spent a chunk of time doing a lot of exploration.
Really?
I realized running was the easiest way for me to get away from all that. I mean, it just makes sense. If things aren't going the way you want them, just run. Just life riddled with impulsive decisions.
Sure.
You know, I impulsively decided to join the U.S. military, and it's not a place you can just say, yeah, I'm here and then I'm gonna leave now. You know, and that happened on a random Tuesday.
Dang.
I got off work and I said,
Jeez.
how fast can I go? Let's go. Dumped everything I had at my parents' house. Got on a plane. Left 3 days later.
Wow.
That was
How
no
were you then?
forethought whatsoever.
No,
Just
no.
let's go. How fast can we do this? I don't
Yeah.
like what's going on around me. Other substances started coming into play at that point.
When you went to the military?
Before that.
Oh, okay.
Things
Okay,
were
yeah.
going slow, just downhill. I had burned every bridge in my route. My parents scraped and saved to save college for me, and I blew that in a 4-month period. Mm-hmm. You know, I hopped on a plane, went to Arizona, and in 4 months I had blown over $20,000.
Wow.
Oh wow.
On just partying,
Yeah.
just trying to feel okay.
Yeah.
You know, and thought the military was going to save me. All this external stuff,
Sure. Yeah.
you know, and that obviously didn't work. Trauma popped up quite a bit. Also, not knowing how to talk to anyone or fit in general. I fit in with what I knew how to do, which was ways and means to get more. That was what I knew how to do very well. However, I was still semi-functional. You know, and that's the thing with addicts. A lot of people think it's a intellectual disability or it's a moral choice where you're just choosing to do bad things and can't you. I mean, it's not a logical disease. It's not.
Yeah.
Lots of illogical things. I know some of the smartest, most resourceful humans in the world have addiction. You know, and that's the thing with it. It's not. Doesn't mean you're smart. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean anything. It has nothing to do with your intelligence level. Because I could score super high on tests. You know, I was a medic attached to the 82nd Airborne, and I was good at my job. However, I could not make it day to day without picking up substances.
Sure. Yeah.
Which made me not valuable as a team member.
Yeah.
You know?
And at this point, are people on your that you're working with, I don't know, platoon or whatever, are they kind of like, man, Brett's got a drinking problem?
I was
Like,
labeled as the
Brett's got a-"
liability. That was my nickname.
Okay.
I was the liability.
Sure.
That's
And
what
that,
they-
and you feel so at this point you're like, dang.
I saw
'cause,
that,
I mean,
my
that-
use was not like theirs.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, not
and
that
were you
they-
mostly drinking in the military, or were you?
During the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, drinking during the day, and then whatever I could, depending what part of the country I was stationed at.
Sure,
Whatever
wow.
was readily available.
Yeah.
Primarily uppers
Yeah.
was where I went.
Okay.
And that's interesting because, you know, you said they labeled you the liability. So your use started, you know, to kind of fill that void of, you know, that non-self acceptance, really to start being accepted, you know, and to find these places where you could be accepted, and ended up in the long run alienating you even more.
Absolutely.
So
I
did that
burned out
kind of
any
play into
healthy
more
people.
decisions? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I started losing people when I got labeled the liability. It came down to the point where they were carrying me home on a regular. That's why their nickname came from. Every time they brought me somewhere, if I started drinking, it was they were going to carry me home, and then, or leave me where I was, which stemmed up a whole stew of other problems. When you the environments we put ourselves in when we're using drinking to the amounts that a lot of us do, puts us in a lot of harm's way.
Sure.
You know, and the reality was the people that I trusted to have my back weren't exactly the most trustworthy people in general, and a lot of not okay things happened.
Yeah.
A lot of really not okay things happened that created a lot of trauma. And what little trust I had in humans slowly went away. Certain events occurred to the point where I did not trust any male around me. And when I got out of the military, that was my first stint through rehab. Was through the military caught on that I drank, and I drank heavily, and I drank to cope with daily activities as well as whatever else was going on in me, which was way more than I had told any other human being.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who work in the profession I work in now work very hard to try to keep me, to try to help me straighten out. To no avail, nothing was getting in because I lacked the ability to be honest at that point.
Sure.
You know, all I saw was people were against me. That progressed further on to my own demise and into just further chronic substance use.
So it seems like it's kind of like you start this to kind of escape from reality, and then as you use, reality keeps getting worse and worse, and then you need to escape from reality more because reality is so bad. And then it just seems to be like some kind of downward spiral.
Absolutely. It's directly proportional to the problems I'm creating, and I don't like dealing with problems, and it goes up and up and up.
Right. Yeah. And you're really looking for that acceptance, but you get less acceptance the more you go down in the spiral, and it's kind of like it just really bad. So
And along the way, I drug in a lot of people. I still had people in my corner. I've always had at least a couple people in my corner. You know, mom and dad I didn't talk to for a chunk of time. Added that whole like shame thing. I was like, it's hard to lie to you guys, so I'm just not going to talk.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't know where I was half the time in the country.
No, that makes sense.
You know, and that was easy for me to do because I learned at a young age if I can just disassociate from the emotions, just turn them off. Just skate over them. However, they didn't go away. They just dumped it further, and that's substances made that easy for me.
It's almost playing out that avoidance. You know,
oh yeah,
you've learned to
just
avoid all these topics. Yeah,
just mimic it. Just pretend it's okay. Do whatever you need to do to get through that moment. Don't talk about it and move forward.
Yeah.
However, it would come out on people I didn't want it to come out in.
Yeah. One time, somebody told me they weren't like mad at me, but they were definitely like trying to make a point, and they were like, Eric, one of these times, like, you're going to learn that your feelings eventually demand to be felt. And I was like, well, that sucks, you know? But that's kind of what it sounds like you're saying, dude. It's like, you know, eventually it's like, you know, I didn't want to feel these, but they didn't go away. And that really, like, that was a hard day. And I was like, they are? He's like, yep.
That's
and
a brutal
like, well,
reality.
That sucks, dude, because these are hard.
That's a brutal
I don't want to feel these.
reality.
Like, these hurt, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like my brain tells me, no, they don't.
Yeah,
we could stuff them for years.
Yeah.
However, they come out and they blow up on the people I don't want them to blow up on.
Yeah.
That's what happens, and that comes out in irrational, incongruent responses to normal questions.
Yeah. How's your day?
Why would you ask me that?
Yeah,
that's
sure,
what my brain.
Sure.
It's always, well, what do you really mean by that?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just. It progressed. I mean, it was daily use.
So how long were you in the thing, dude? I'm just going to pause that, and then you can come back later. Pyre. Oh, so he's going to
But not all.
So you were in the military, and then and then we were just talking kind of, it sounds like you weren't in the military anymore. How did you go from kind of in to not?
Manipulation and negative behaviors actually got me out the quickest way possible as a general discharge.
Okay.
We don't owe us anything. We don't owe you anything. Walk away.
Yeah, leave.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you actually in the military then?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of a long time to be...
A little under 3 years. 2 and change. 2.5, thereabouts.
That seems kind of like a long time to be under like close watch and also, or like a lot of responsibility, but also like not really meeting your responsibilities. Like that sounds stressful to me.
Yeah.
Like I have a ton of responsibilities. However, I'm like not really interested in meeting a lot of them.
I spent 7 months not being able to wear civilian clothes and not being able to leave company quarters.
Yeah.
Which is called extra duty. I spent 7 months on it.
Okay. And were you?
It's a long time.
So that you could not. So they could keep you under wraps.
Yeah, it was supposed to be so I didn't consume any substances.
But you still.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
That resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Extremely resourceful, extremely manipulative.
Yeah.
So that's how we sharpen those skills. You know, and that was kind of this running joke that we had, where you could put me in any situation in any town, and I'm going to find out to get what I want within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I did it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, things didn't get any better when I got out of the military. I had a lot of stuff going on in my head, a lot of cool training that I didn't utilize for much, other than negative behaviors. Substance use was daily, definite daily. Upon getting out, I started shooting up drugs.
Yeah.
That was just the natural progression that it eventually ended up. Not everybody.
Does that make
goes
things
that
go
route.
downhill pretty quick?
I was already going down, and I went straight down from there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Then
that's
I
one
just
thing we've
spread
heard.
out, and then straight down again, and just spread out and straight down again.
Yeah. Because that is one thing that we hear is kind of like once you start injecting, it's like, whoa, this is like, didn't know this could feel this good. But then on the other hand, like, didn't know I could make my life get even harder.
Yeah, or kill you, give you
or,
those, permanent lifelong medical conditions.
Sure.
They don't put that on the label.
Right, yeah, could give Hep C. Yeah, be careful.
There's a lot of a lot of damage stuff that can happen with
once you start.
And I thought because I was medically trained that made me indifferent to all this stuff, but the reality it didn't.
Okay.
Of course, my whole thing was my environment was my issue. It had nothing to do with my substance use.
That's what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Like if I just ran.
Yeah. I jumped to and this, I drug a lot of people in there with me. There was a female who, for whatever reason, loved whatever healthy parts of me were left. And I ran her directly into the ground.
Okay. What do you mean?
She was a functional college going
And she followed you to the hell and back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just ran her right into the ground. Mm-hmm.
Well, it was like she would ditch her goals for you, and
she uprooted her life and moved to North Carolina to be with me. And I completely lied about me getting out of the military.
You said you were still in.
Well, I told her I was on leave. This it's not a logical disease that we have.
No. And I mean, we're not.
No,
we know.
I laugh at it now.
Yeah. No, girl, I'm on leave.
Yeah,
it's
cool. And just irresponsible and not have no consideration for anyone else's. And she was able to flourish and function, and I don't know where she's at now, but I do know that she is in a healthy relationship. Which had nothing to do with me. I was told by some people. I don't really. I don't want to look at that part of my life. But I've been told that she's healthy and happy, and I'm like, good. She went the opposite direction of where I was at.
Yeah, cool.
So, and that's what's cool. That was she's able to detach, something I could never do. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. Like I didn't know how to. I never got broken up with or anything. I just never got close enough people to have to do that.
Yeah,
I could just walk away with indifference.
Sure.
So yeah, along with lots of moves after that, back to Alaska, still would fall face first into these awesome opportunities. Worked at an oil refinery for a while, had a super good job, decided to impulsively get married to a girl that I knew for a month, because I thought a marriage would change it. And it didn't. I just drug more people in.
Sure.
I took hostages, not relationships.
Yeah.
Is basically what I did.
Sure.
Long and short of that, amongst whatever happened with that, I got a beautiful daughter out of it.
Okay.
Out
of your marriage.
Out of the marriage.
Okay.
It ended when I went to treatment.
Your marriage did?
Yeah.
What happened there? You were like, I'm going to go to treatment.
Basically, along with, not dealing with avoidance of consequences doesn't mean felonies go away.
Mm-hmm.
So, or jail time, and those things started, just like in the 12-step community, you do 30, 60, 90 days. That's how my jail sentences started stacking up.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking at felony I got put on. My life was completely unmanageable. Use was just rampant. They put me on this thing. It was the purest form of unmanageability, which is called adult probation. They actually put someone in charge of you to make sure you can follow simple directions.
Yeah.
And that we struggle to follow. It's very simple.
Yeah.
That's where my life was. I couldn't even handle that. Mm-hmm. Ended up getting an opportunity to go to treatment. I say opportunity now. It didn't feel like an opportunity then. Yeah. However, I there was some major things going on with the people that I was associating with. I went to treatment, and a couple weeks into treatment, I realized that the guy that I considered my best friend at the time, and my wife he was living at my house, and my stuff was going to be outside.
Okay.
These are the people. This is the things that I don't see logically around people when I'm under the influence. I just see, hey, you're the guy I've known for a long time. You're cool, and that is what it is.
And that's like a vulnerable spot in your
absolutely
treatment, man. You're 2 weeks into trying to.
However, when you look at it, the way that my life follows my higher powers will for me now, which follows along with the 12-step program, it was the two hardest people I was going to have problems detaching from. That made it very simple to detach from them at that point. I had nothing in me wanted anything to do with that, other than we co-parented our daughter.
Okay.
You know, and that's what
she's 6.
She's 6 now.
Yeah.
10/17/2012 was my clean date.
Okay.
Once I went to treatment, was given that opportunity.
Where was that? Where were you going to treatment?
Serenity House.
Okay.
I'd gone through
here
other.
in Soldotna.
Yeah, Serenity House here locally, where I work now. Which is a whole awesome thing in itself.
That's cool.
Yeah.
As far as the gratitude thing, it's just amazing.
That's gonna feel pretty awesome.
Yeah, it feels like another person's living it.
Alumni.
It's one of those things. It's like, how do you give gratitude to people who showed you how messed up life was and introduced you to a new way to live, which is through the 12-step program? But how do you give gratitude for saving your life? I mean, honestly, I don't know. It's a little bit every day, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what treatment did for me. Treatment showed me exactly how, because I still couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I got a little substance issue. That's what I got.
Yeah.
This and the reality, I didn't want to get clean when I got in there. I did. I had no intention of getting clean. My whole thing was I just wanted to stop going to jail. Because jail was getting in the way.
Was this kind of a go to jail or go to treatment thing?
It was.
I mean,
I didn't have many options.
Yeah, okay.
The courts don't mandate you to go to treatment.
Sure.
They don't. They make it they make it so treatment's the easier, softer way, and that's what they did. I was looking at a lengthy time. Yeah, strongly suggest lengthy time back in the same place I'd been, or try this thing out, see if it fits. Yeah. And the reality was, people in the Department of Corrections worked very hard, and made their life very hectic for a long time, very hectic, but they worked very hard to keep me alive when I was doing everything to not.
Sure.
A lot of people in my path worked way harder to keep me breathing and upright than I ever did. Yeah. And that's the kind of things that you find when you get into recovery. Those are the things you can start appreciating. The people who are in your corner, even when you're not in your own corner.
And you're like, get out of my corner.
Yeah. I mean, when you're pointing at them, screaming at them, like a lot of people, it happens when you're going through stages of change.
Yeah.
It's about those people who stick it in with you, and they're actually able to be there. And it's a mixture of people from all different backgrounds. It's really a beautiful thing when you see the amount of people and the amount of recovery that's actually in this community.
Yeah, we've heard that a couple times too. From some of the other people we've recorded with their recovery stories, that the recovery community in Soldotna, one lady said it was nothing like she's ever seen before. Nothing like she even expected. Like, it is as bad as the substance abuse issue is here. The recovery community is ready and willing to combat that. Just as ready, just as willing. It
is. It is. It hasn't always been that way.
Yeah,
sure.
So, but that's what's cool about right now. There are a lot of options to get help. There's all sorts of local resources here. And that's the thing. As long as everyone can move in the same general direction, we can still keep helping people.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was able to find here. I was able to find solutions for anything that came up in my life. That came through and introduced me into the 12-step community. That was the key indicator, because the reality was, I could manipulate, fake, and compliant my way through any length of treatment.
Yeah.
But what I was scared about, that I finally told somebody in treatment and into a counselor, was I didn't know what to do when I got out.
Yeah.
I was like, what,
That's
in here,
scary.
I can be whatever you want me to be.
Yeah,
but the reality was,
the
second I walk out of here, I have these ingrained behaviors from these core just issues that are just there. They are my default modes. And he said, let's restart your defaults. And it's not, and you know what, that was the beauty of being around people who understood what it was like being in it from an addict point of view.
Yeah.
They understood it's a daily battle.
Yeah.
You know, but the daily battle doesn't have to be as complicated as I make it. Simple solutions is what worked.
It sounds like you were, I know the saying, be good or be good at it, and it sounds like you were always just wanting to be good at it.
Yeah,
and
you finally
finally came to a point to where, like, I don't want to be good at this anymore. Like, I don't want to be good at faking these things. I want to, like, be good. You know, I mean, for lack of a better word, like, I want to be honest. I want to be vulnerable.
I want to learn how to do these
I want to
things.
live my life. Like,
well, that's where the community resource stuff came in. The 12-step community came in, and a certain individual came in and shared a story, and you know what, there was a lot of details that weren't the same, but all I knew was that guy ran around scared. He was highly criminal. I'm like, I can relate to that, and that, you know,
Sure.
and I was like, and you know what? I don't think he's doing that right now.
yeah. And that's what I want.
And he made
you know?
it simple.
Yeah.
I do this thing with people that I work with, and
Yeah.
I've done it for a while because it was taught to me. We don't set the bar real high. We're going to throw the bar on the ground. We're going to step over it first.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to aim for the stars.
Yeah.
Because that's that whole thing. That's the
Dude,
easiest
that's
way for me to disqualify
daunting,
myself.
man. Yeah, that's overwhelming.
I will set a bar high enough so I can disclude myself from doing anything positive.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I've learned is manageable bites.
Okay.
Manageable bites. Like, what can we do right now? You know, don't even look at the next 24 hours, man. Look at the next hour.
Yeah.
That's what I had my sponsor do with me. We didn't aim for the stars. We aimed for let's go right now, because the reality is you only got right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and those behaviors, as far away as you can get from them physically, mentally, the reality is they're always right there. There's no way I'm ever going to forget how to use substances. I know some of the same people I use with are in the same exact places, same exact locations, same exact phone numbers.
Yeah.
I got a couple of them still drilled in my head.
Yeah.
I've tried everything I can do to forget that. It just doesn't go
Yeah,
away.
I mean, that's a tool set that you learned. I mean, despite even if they were like you said, kind of negative coping mechanisms, those are some in stone coping
They're
mechanisms
still coping
that you gotta.
The reality is
that
they're
you're
still in my
always-
toolbox, man.
They're there. Yeah.
That's what treatment did. That's what Serenity DS helped me do. Helped me fill my toolbox up. And the 12-step community showed me how to use that toolbox.
cool.
It doesn't mean that every tool is used.
Sure.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. You know
yeah.
what? We worked on, let's just stay clean. We'll work on all the mental stuff, any emotional stuff. We're going to work on that later, because the reality right now, you can't stay clean working on two things at once.
Yeah.
We're going to keep you right now just working on let's stay clean for today. That's what my sponsor did for me. He showed me exactly how to stay clean through anything. Did I heal from everything? Absolutely not. But I was able to stay clean through it to learn how to heal from it later.
Yeah.
And that's where the rest of opportunities in this area, resources that are available to us for any mental health disorders, anything else, any co-occurring disorders, anything else is there.
Yeah.
You know, but the reality, I had to make a choice. So, am I going to do this thing? Am I going to change how I live? And live. The reality is, I lived uncomfortable for my whole first year.
Sure.
Not in
'Cause
pain.
you said you're 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that first year was.
I lived in constant state of uncomfortable because I was
Yeah.
establishing new habits, and the way humans' brains work is we
Yeah.
don't just all of a sudden pop up new habits. It takes a
Right.
whole lot of
Oh,
willpower. And I felt exhausted doing simple adult stuff from
Yeah.
day to day. Like, you know, going into a grocery store, it was like, all right, Operation Don't Steal Anything.
Yeah.
That's what it was
right.
like. And
No.
that sounds simple to a lot of people.
Right.
But for a guy who stole stuff for 12 years solid of his life, it was ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the cool thing. You know, I found people in the recovery community who they didn't understand exactly why I did these things, but they're like, I can see you're struggling with this.
Yeah.
It's all right. Let's find a solution for this. And that's what we did. We found manageable solutions for all this stuff that went way above just not picking up. Because just not picking, if just not picking up was going to fix everything, then detox would turn out winners. And the reality is, it doesn't.
Sure.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I read this thing once, and it said, like, although the addict may like to think this is true, it's simply not true that one can stop using and let that using be illustrated like a tornado. That use is a tornado, and let the addict might think that, like, this tornado can rage for years and years and years, and then it can stop, their use can stop, and they can walk outside, and there not just be some great, massive pile of wreckage.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's not true. Like, there's that use was like years of a tornado going through, or you said a hurricane earlier.
Yeah.
After a hurricane, there's a lot of mess.
And there's the thing, and I learned this stuff, that just because we learn new tools doesn't mean we always use them.
Sure.
Right.
Because everything I learned, my addiction learned.
Sure.
You know, and addiction used to be this big scream. It was just this this pounding voice. And then all of a sudden it realized that approach wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So it came in from the back door, and it's a whisper. It's hey, let's be dishonest today. Let's not be where we say we're going to be. Let's try some dishonesty stuff.
Right.
I don't get to live in the gray anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
wow.
I don't get to live in this gray area where I have 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Sure.
I've watched a lot of people. I've buried people who lived there.
Yeah.
You know, close people I had. You know, and all joking aside, you know, that's the reality of this.
Yeah.
This ends up in jails, institutions, and death.
Yeah.
That's where addiction, you know, and it's not for people who want this thing. You know, it's not even people who need this.
No.
It's for people who do this.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I've really, it's not a cool blessing, but it is a blessing. I've realized I've experienced death through recovery. People who wanted to get clean and they don't make it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not ready to give everything over. They're not ready to do this. They're not ready to drop all, you know, and surrender everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a sad reality of this. We see it all the time.
And that's something it seems like we saw in our last episode we recorded, and that we're seeing more and more is basically whether it be an addict thing or but I would think, you know, I would say maybe a human thing, but I think we're going to see it more with people who have these addictive tendencies, who have this addictive temperament, who have the disease of addiction. They're extreme, man. I mean, it's all in or all out. You know, it's all in to use full go, or it's like all into recovery. This whole 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it doesn't work well with this personality.
It's really hard. It's really hard. That's where the 12-step community jumped into, basically.
They said get all in.
Yeah, my sponsor said, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to teach you a whole bunch of complicated things. He said, it's not that you can't, you're not smart enough to retain it, but we're going to aim you in one direction on this, and we'll see what else comes out. Let your higher power lead you to where you're going to go, and everything else is going to fall into place the way it's supposed to be. You know, and that's what we did. We didn't worry about getting a job. He said the job stuff will pop up, and it did.
Yeah.
In reality, it did. I mean, I still to this day turn down jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just got a very good job offer in the last month that I've been able to turn down, and I have a record. Doesn't make logical sense to a lot of people, but it has nothing to do with this cool stuff I did. It's this cool stuff that I learned through recovery.
Yeah.
You know, it's not new idea. I don't come up with new good ideas. Sure. My ideas end up with me in jail. That's what I do. You know, even through recovery, you know, all these things that honestly I never even knew I wanted. You know, I have a beautiful wife that I met through recovery. I have 3 amazing kids that I get to actually be present for in their life. These are all things that I didn't know I wanted. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what's cool. It only caps out as high as I want it to go.
Yeah.
You know, and the reality, I don't get to know what happens next. That was the hardest part for me my whole first year clean.
Sure.
Was accepting
like, can
that
I keep
don't
doing
get
this?
to know this. I don't get to know what's going to happen next week. I don't get to decide what's going to happen because my decisions just, like I said, end up with me in jail.
Yeah.
You know,
was there ever that thought where you're like, man, because like you said, you're such a good, you know, manipulator, and you're such a good talker, and everything it seems that you've been good at, whether it be sports, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be hiding things from people. So ever that thought, there's like, man, if I put all that effort and all that energy into being good at those things, how can I not be just as good at the other side? As being this family man, as being you know, the person I really
honestly, I thought never crossed my mind really? Until I hit these in their 12-step recovery community. You celebrate birthdays, you know, and all these people basically tell you where they've seen you at and where you're at now.
Sure,
and the whole time I'm like lies. But the reality is, a bunch of people who love me. And the reason they know I'm doing the things that I'm doing is because they see me.
Yeah.
That only comes, the only way that works to keep me in check, to keep my motives pure, is to actually communicate and be engaged with these people.
Yeah.
It doesn't work just because I show up once a year. It doesn't mean, I mean, that's how this works. It's all in.
Yeah.
You don't get to be all in, or, you know, you don't get to be half in, half out. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's the first ones that get picked off in a herd. The ones that straggling on the outside. And there's people out there who are willing to help you. The reality is I had to put my hands up and say I need help.
Yeah.
Which sounds like logically super easy, right? But it's not.
Yeah, no.
It's
Yeah,
not.
no.
It's not, because we don't know where to turn. That was the most beautiful thing for me in recovery, was just really doing the attitude of surrender. Just sit down, put your hands up, wait for someone to tell you what to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. And that, it didn't feel good. And you know what? It wasn't this cliche rock bottom thing like everybody hits. Rock bottom for me was just a brutal realization to me that was, I have no clue what I'm doing with this. With this life thing. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Every positive thing that's happened with me has been new information to me. My marriage, it's healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have healthy relationships with any humans. I don't. It's constantly learning things. And whether I believe they're going to work out or not. Because the reality is, I didn't think I was going to be able to stay clean.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be able to be a parent. I didn't think I was going to be able to be a husband.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to be able to have a job. I didn't think I was going to be able to not pound nails or work with metal. I thought I was going to be a laborer the rest of my life, because that's all, that's all my head told me I should do.
Yeah.
Because they were easy jobs to get. I could get them anywhere.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd have a career for one.
Yeah.
And that's what I have now.
And that's interesting because, you said, like, the hardest part about your first year of recovery is that you didn't know what was going to happen, next week. But when you're when you're using and stuff like that, you're like, oh, I can do this next week. I can go get this job next week. I can get this. I'll get that.
Fantasy.
And this is how it's going to work out. And in your mind, this is how it's going to happen. You more or less thought you had that facade of control rather than actually having control like you do.
That is.
That's the thing. It's not even a control thing, because I don't control the good things that happen in my life. What I do is I turn everything over to my higher power and just do the next right thing. And the only reason I find out what the next thing is, I ask.
Yeah.
I constantly ask people questions. As annoying as that may seem.
Yeah.
Right.
I try to thank people too. Like, I know this is going to sound stupid. I know this, but please can you explain this to me? What did you mean by this? My coworkers and the people I've been blessed to be around with, I'm sure, just like, oh, great, he's asking more questions.
Yeah.
That's how I have to learn things. I have to constantly ask questions and figure out, how does it relate to my life? How can I use this? And I've had a lot of people be extremely patient with me along that way. Because simple things were hard for me.
Yeah.
Simple things like don't steal things.
Yeah.
Very difficult for me.
Right.
But that's what's cool about recovery, is we don't get to, it only caps off where I cap it off at.
If you want to keep putting in the work and kind of let go of this grand illusion of control, like, who knows all the good things that can come.
I've been my own worst enemy my entire life.
Sure.
And here's this other cool thing. A bunch of stuff gets to happen and I get to have nothing to do with it. Like, my mom went into remission for multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
Which is relatively rare.
Yeah.
Not only to go into remission, but for it to, for lack of a better phrase, go away.
Sure.
Went from being wheelchair bound to,
that's awesome.
she runs
That is
every day.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's
and then there's this
incredible.
whole thing I found out, like, stress levels. High stress ends up, increasing multiple sclerosis symptoms. You look at how much stress, and that's the cool thing. Like, it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with me. And that's the beautiful part about, I get to be present in my life today and experience these things. I get to go home to an amazing family every day.
Yeah.
And they put up with my craziness in my head. They do. And my coworkers are just amazing, and all the people I get to meet in recovery.
Yeah.
That's what had me choose my career. Basically, my sponsor I have now asked what I was, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know.
How long ago did you start as a...
September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I went from pounding nails, mowing lawns, running a bobcat to doing that.
Wow.
And that was the thing. I put in a lot of work through the 12-step program.
Yeah.
A lot of work through the 12-step. And
Did you get a sponsor pretty early on? Because
I got a sponsor when I was still in treatment.
That's another thing we're hearing is that, like,
Super
I got a
important.
sponsor.
Sponsors
or
are for step work. Step work is for the 12-step program.
Sure.
That it's really cut and dry.
Okay.
Doesn't mean steps are going to fix everything for you, but what it does, it lists out a lot.
A little bit of
It lists out
structure and how to
solutions.
maybe get there to
Yeah.
get somewhere positive.
Somewhere different than where you're at.
Sure. Yeah.
In a different direction. And that was, for me, that was the big key to it. That's what my first sponsor did for me. He said, we're gonna work steps. He said, we'll go to meetings together. There's probably a bunch of other cool stuff we're gonna do. But the reality, the nature of our relationship is step work. Other than that, I'm just another guy you know in recovery if you're not working steps.
Okay.
That clicked in my head.
Yeah, that's
pretty
like,
cut
hey,
and
dude,
dry.
yeah,
I was
dude,
like,
that's straight
awesome.
up. Yeah,
I look
seems
at
very
people
straightforward.
who relapse all the time, and the thing that makes me sad is it's available to everybody. You know, and you know, I've worked with people who struggle reading. You know, they got it on tape. They got the book on tape. It's like, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
We can find a way to do it. You know.
Yeah.
And I had a sponsor who showed me. He didn't tell me. He didn't talk about what he did. He showed me what to do in this.
Yeah.
You know, and I was blessed to have a bunch of other men and women have extreme patience with me through this and teach me not just by talking, but by showing me how I'm supposed to, how life could be. You know, and that's what sparked that glimmer of hope. And you know what? There's a lot of people I still think when I see them, you know, for just doing simple, basic things. Like, thanks for showing up, or hey, thanks for giving me a ride when I was walking.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
simple stuff like that we get to be present for today.
So, it sounds like you started at Serenity as a counselor. A month later, you had your 5-year clean, right?
Yeah.
Because you said October
Yep.
2012 was your clean date. So just about 6 months ago or so, you celebrated 5 years. So you're about 5.5 years. You're still continually, obviously, through your work, plugged in with Serenity. What are some of, before we close up, what are some of the things that you would say, like, for people who are trying to get into recovery? Maybe some, maybe resources, or maybe just like some advice. And what about some of those people that are in recovery and are struggling? You know, you said your first year was hard. Like, before we close, you know, what are some of those, like, especially for people here on the peninsula?
Your local 12-step communities are there.
Okay. And when you say that, I know, like, the NA or AA 12-step program,
Yes.
how do you get plugged in?
You go to the meetings of the URS Club, or the
At the what?
The URS Club.
Okay. What's that?
It's where the meetings are held.
Okay.
In Kenai.
Okay.
It's over in the old Cars Mall.
Okay.
That's where they go. They have meetings starting at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, and every evening they have a meeting.
So the old Cars Mall in Kenai.
In Kenai,
Okay.
right off the Spur Highway.
And
And also
that's-
the Unity group in Soldotna runs meetings at noon every day.
Okay.
So there's options around getting keyed into. The reality, there isn't a specific. I'm not going to say there's a specific route that everyone needs to take. Just keying in, putting your hands up, and saying you need help.
Yeah.
And when saying you need help, the big thing is just be willing to do what's asked of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I've never been asked to do anything. I've been asked to do a bunch of stuff that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I've never been asked at any treatment I've been to, at anywhere, you know, I've never been asked to do anything that is going to hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what crazy tricks my mind plays, it's just going to ask me to do a little bit of uncomfortable things. You know, and that's the thing. And then just strap in and get ready for the ride. You know, it takes a whole lot of work, but it's not impossible work. You know, the biggest thing it took for me, the only reason I ever had any substance use or anything was feelings.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were talking about it before. You know,
Yeah.
feelings is the only reason I ever did anything. It's the only reason I ever do anything.
Yeah.
It's either I want to deal with this feeling or I don't want to deal with this feeling, or this is how I'm dealing with this feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good
and that's what I realized. And getting clean put me in touch with those feelings.
Sure.
But it also, you know, along that same way, when I put my hands up and wanted help and listened to someone direct me how to live. You know, it's because my default modes, along with a lot of other people, a lot of other addicts and alcoholics, we don't know how to live.
Yeah.
You know, putting our hands up, like, show me what to do. Simplest thing.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's not easy though.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing.
Being
And-
vulnerable like that's never easy
no,
for anybody.
You
in
tell someone I
regardless
don't
of
know how to
situation.
adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult,
Sure, yeah,
you know.
that's hard. That's
it's
hard.
what it is, you know. But that's the thing. It was only difficult the first, like, sounds weird, but the first 100 times I did it.
Yeah.
I've literally done it thousands of times. Since
Yeah.
I've been clean. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. Please help me. You know, and that's the cool thing. People in the 12-step community have been able to help me with that. You know, a lot of people at Serenity House have been able to help me with that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't get laughed at first. Years later, we'll laugh about it.
Yeah.
But while I'm going through it, you know.
But
I
as
get people
friends,
who-
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Brett. This has been great to kind of hear your story as well as be able to kind of talk about the different resources available. And just, every time it's cool because every time we do a recovery story, there's either like some things that people have said that we hear again, or we hear that like twisted a little bit, just kind of like, it's kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. Just like one of the things earlier was having 1 foot in and 1 foot out, like we've heard that before, kind of like ultimately being like, man, I just really can't do this anymore. But every time also there's some new things as well. Kind of that first year was scary, you kind of have let go of some of that control, and you're like kind of turning some things over and not being so like stressed out in some ways of like trying to control all these other parts. So, I mean, just from a personal note, like it's really cool to just hear, because each recovery story is a little bit different, and then other times it's like, hey, yeah, that's the same thing that, I was feeling as well. So, thank you so much for sharing your stuff. That was cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This is Eric and Aaron and Kobe, you and I for the Kenai. Thank you so much.